Welcome back, my dear travelers. Tonight, we journey to a quiet corner of Middle-earth, to the rolling green hills and cozy hobbit holes of the Shire, where the gentlefolk known as Hobbits live their unassuming lives. While their stories may seem small compared to the sweeping epics of elves, dwarves, and men, the Hobbits have left an enduring mark on the history of Middle-earth. From their humble origins to their heroic roles in the War of the Ring, the Hobbit's tale is one of quiet resilience, unexpected courage, and an unshakable love for the simple joys of life. Together, we'll uncover their history, their culture, and their legacy, exploring how these small folk came to shape the fate of an entire world. Before we continue, I want you, my dear listener, to comment down below where you're from and what time it currently is. Now, settle in, let the soft whispers of Middle-earth guide you, and prepare to uncover the story of the Hobbits. The origins of the Hobbits are shrouded in mystery, veiled in the quiet obscurity that characterized their earliest days. Unlike the grand and storied beginnings of the elves and dwarves, the Hobbits entered Middle-earth's histories as a small and unnoticed people, content to live in peace, far removed from the affairs of kings and wars. Tolkien himself was sparing in his account of their origins, but clues suggest that the Hobbits were a branch of the race of men, sharing a distant kinship with the larger and more storied lines of humanity. The earliest references to Hobbits place them along the banks of the Anduin River, in the fertile lowlands between Mirkwood and the Misty Mountains. This was during the early Third Age, long after the tumultuous conflicts of the First and Second Ages had reshaped the world. The Hobbits likely lived quiet, agrarian lives, tending to small farms and gardens along the riverbanks. Their presence, largely unnoticed by the elves, dwarves, and other great peoples of Middle-earth. They preferred the quiet rhythms of the land, avoiding the tumult of larger civilizations and the dangers of the wider world. At this time, the Hobbits were divided into three distinct kinds: the Harfoots, the Stores, and the Falahides. Though they shared a common ancestry, these groups exhibited unique characteristics shaped by their environment and way of life. The Harfoots were the most numerous and adhered closely to the land, living in burrows and thriving in hilly terrain. The Stores, stockier and broader, favored riversides and lowlands, often settling near water. The Falahides, the least numerous, were more adventurous and often gravitated toward forests and woodlands. This diversity within their kind allowed the Hobbits to adapt to a variety of landscapes, ensuring their survival in an ever-changing world. The reasons for their westward migration remain uncertain, but the Third Age brought significant changes to the lands along the Anduin. It is possible that the growing shadow of Dol Guldur in southern Mirkwood, the resurgence of Sauron in secret, or the increasing dangers of warring peoples pushed the Hobbits from their quiet homes. Gradually, they began to move westward, crossing the Misty Mountains in search of lands that promised safety and abundance. The journey was not without its challenges. Crossing the misty mountains was a daunting endeavor for a small and unassuming people, unaccustomed to the dangers of the wild. Yet the hobbits were resourceful, and their natural knack for blending into the landscape likely helped them avoid the many perils of the mountains. Once across, they began to disperse into the lands of Eriador, settling in scattered communities and adapting to their new surroundings. It was during this period that the three hobbit kinds began to intermingle, their distinct traits gradually blending into a unified culture. The Harfoots, with their agrarian lifestyle and strong familial bonds, became the cultural foundation of Hobbit society. The Stewars, with their affinity for water, likely contributed a practical knowledge of fishing and rivercraft. The adventurous and curious nature of the Falahides brought a spirit of leadership and exploration, though these traits often manifested subtly, as most hobbits still preferred the quiet comforts of home. One of the earliest recorded mentions of hobbits comes from the histories of Arnor, the great northern kingdom of men. Around the year 1050 of the Third Age, hobbits were noted to have settled in the lands of Bree and its surrounding areas. These settlements marked the beginning of their emergence as a recognizable people in the histories of Middle-earth, though they remained largely inconspicuous. The hobbits were not a people of war or grand ambition. They sought only to live peacefully, cultivating the land and avoiding entanglements with the affairs of other races. Their small size and unassuming nature made them adept at evading notice, a trait that likely contributed to their survival. Unlike men, who were drawn into the conflicts of Middle-earth, or elves, whose fading presence marked the twilight of their dominion, hobbits thrived in the spaces between, where peace and quiet could still be found. This ability to remain unseen, both figuratively and literally, became a defining characteristic of their people. As the centuries passed, the hobbits gradually moved farther west, drawn by the promise of fertile lands and a quieter life. Their migration culminated in the founding of the Shire, a region that would become synonymous with their identity. But even before they established this idyllic homeland, the Hobbits' history was defined by their resilience and adaptability. They had crossed mountains, endured the uncertainties of migration, and carved out a place for themselves in the wider world, all without drawing the attention of the great powers that shaped Middle-earth. Though their beginnings were humble and their early days marked by obscurity, the Hobbits' origins laid the foundation for a people whose quiet strength would one day play a pivotal role in the fate of Middle-earth. From the banks of the Anduin to the green hills of the Shire, the story of the Hobbits is one of survival, simplicity, and the enduring power of a peaceful heart. As the Hobbits completed their westward migration, their scattered settlements across Eriador gradually gave rise to more unified communities. It was a natural progression born from their deep-rooted love of peace and community, as well as the need for stability in an ever-changing world. Among these early settlements, none would become as significant as the Shire. A land of rolling green hills, fertile farmland, and tranquil rivers. It was here, in this idyllic corner of Middle-earth, that the Hobbits would finally find a home that reflected their quiet aspirations. Before the Shire was established, Hobbits lived in small, scattered communities throughout Eriador. Many settled near Bree, one of the oldest continuously inhabited regions of Middle-earth. Bree was unique in its shared population of men and hobbits, where the two peoples coexisted in harmony. While hobbits in Bree lived simply, focusing on farming and trade, they maintained a distinct culture and identity separate from the big folk. Other hobbit settlements sprang up along the rivers and woodlands of Eriador, where the Harfoots, Stores, and Falahides found environments that suited their needs. However, as these groups began to intermingle and share traditions, a unified hobbit culture emerged. By the middle of the Third Age, the hobbits were no longer a collection of distinct kinds, but a cohesive people seeking greater stability and independence. The founding of the Shire marked a turning point in Hobbit history. Around the year 1601 of the Third Age, two Falahide brothers, Marco and Blanco, led a group of hobbits westward from Bree in search of new lands to settle. Their journey took them across the Brandywine River into the region that would become the Shire. The land, once part of the Kingdom of Arnor, was sparsely populated and ideal for hobbit life. It offered fertile fields for farming, rivers for fishing, and wooded hills for building homes. Marco and Blanco's decision to cross the Brandywine was not made lightly. The hobbits sought a place where they could live in peace, away from the growing instability of the larger world. The weakening of the northern Dunedain kingdoms left much of Eriador in a state of decline, with abandoned lands and crumbling settlements dotting the region. For the hobbits, this presented an opportunity, a land where they could establish their own society, free from interference. The brothers negotiated an agreement with the last king of Arnor, who granted them the right to settle the region in exchange for a nominal allegiance. This allegiance was symbolic rather than practical, as the king's power was already waning. For the hobbits, it was a chance to claim a land of their own, while avoiding the burdens of larger political conflicts. The Shire's geography was a harmonious blend of natural beauty and practicality, perfectly suited to the needs and values of the hobbits. Divided into 4 regions known as Farthings: North Farthing, South Farthing, East Farthing, and West Farthing. Each area developed unique characteristics that contributed to the Shire's identity. North Farthing, with its cooler climate, was known for its sheep farms and occasional snowfall, a rarity elsewhere in the Shire. This region's pastoral landscapes supported livestock farming, essential to Hobbit livelihoods. South Farthing, by contrast, boasted fertile fields and vineyards, becoming renowned for the cultivation of pipeweed, a hallmark of Hobbit culture. To the east, East Farthing was defined by the presence of the Brandywine River and the Buckland region, where hobbits lived closer to the mysterious Old Forest. This proximity lent an adventurous spirit to its inhabitants, setting them apart from their more reserved neighbors. Finally, West Farthing, home to Hobbiton and the Hill, served as the cultural and political heart of the Shire, a hub of social life and governance. Across the Shire, rivers and streams wove through wooded hills and rich farmland, creating a landscape of pastoral charm that reflected the Hobbits' deep connection to the land. Over time, they adapted to their surroundings with ingenuity and care, transforming the Shire into a sanctuary of peace and simplicity, a living testament to their values. The hobbits who settled the Shire carried with them a strong sense of kinship and community, which became the foundation of their society. Early Shire life was shaped by the establishment of prominent families or clans, whose influence extended into nearly every aspect of Hobbit culture. These families not only provided leadership and stability, but also helped preserve the traditions and customs that defined Hobbit life. The Tooks, known for their adventurous streak, stood out as one of the wealthiest and most influential families in the Shire. Their estates in Tuckborough became a hub of social and political activity, and the Tooks themselves were often seen as leaders among their people. Though their bold tendencies sometimes set them apart from more conservative hobbits. Meanwhile, the Brandybucks, who resided in Buckland near the Brandywine River, were characterized by their independence and willingness to venture near the Shire's borders. Living on the edge of the Old Forest gave them a certain adventurous resilience, though they remained firmly rooted in Hobbit traditions. The Bagginses, in contrast, embodied the Shire's ideal of quiet respectability. Known for their reserved and steady nature, they became a symbol of the peaceful and unassuming Hobbit lifestyle. Together, these families and others created the backbone of Hobbit society. Clan gatherings, communal festivals, and shared meals were vital to maintaining the Hobbits' sense of community, ensuring that their connections with one another remained strong. Over time, these traditions cultivated a harmonious and tight-knit culture, reflecting the Hobbits' deep appreciation for family, friendship, and the simple joys of life. Although the Hobbits pledged nominal allegiance to the Kingdom of Arnor, this connection had little practical impact on their daily lives. Arnor's decline and eventual fall in 1974 of the Third Age left the Shire largely isolated from the wider conflicts of Middle-earth. This isolation was a defining feature of the Shire's history, allowing the Hobbits to cultivate a life of peace and simplicity, while avoiding the turmoil that plagued other regions. The Dunedain Rangers, descendants of the Lost Kingdom, continued to protect the borders of the Shire from external threats. Though the Hobbits were largely unaware of this quiet guardianship, it ensured their safety and allowed their society to flourish undisturbed. Over the centuries, the Shire developed a distinct cultural identity. The Hobbits embraced a lifestyle centered on farming, family, and community, with little interest in the outside world. They cultivated the land with care, growing abundant crops and raising livestock that sustained their simple but joyful way of life. The Hobbits' traditions became deeply rooted in the Shire's rolling hills and fields. They celebrated birthdays with feasts and exchanged gifts as tokens of goodwill. Festivals and harvest celebrations brought entire villages together, strengthening the bonds between families and neighbors. Above all, the Hobbits valued quiet contentment, a quality that defined their culture and their home. The founding of the Shire represented more than just a geographic settlement. It was a sanctuary for the Hobbits, a place where they could live according to their own values, untouched by the wars and ambitions of the outside world. Its peaceful isolation allowed them to preserve their traditions and build a society where contentment and simplicity reigned supreme. For centuries, the Shire remained hidden from the great struggles of Middle-earth. Yet, its quiet hills and fields would one day become the backdrop for some of the most significant events in Middle-earth's history. The Shire's tranquility was not eternal, but its foundation ensured that it would endure as a symbol of hope and resilience in the face of change. With their home firmly established, the Hobbits turned their focus inward, nurturing a culture and way of life that would define them for generations. It was in this pastoral haven that the Hobbits flourished, crafting a life of peace and simplicity that stood apart from the wider world. In the next part, we'll delve deeper into the heart of Hobbit culture, their customs, traditions, and the simple joys that made the Shire a unique and enduring place. The culture of the Hobbits is a reflection of their deep love for peace, simplicity, and community, values that permeate every aspect of their daily lives and traditions. Unlike the grand ambitions of men, the immortal wisdom of the elves, or the industrious craftsmanship of the dwarves, the Hobbits have always sought quiet contentment, preferring the comforts of hearth and home to the complexities of the wider world. Their customs and way of life, shaped by their agrarian roots and communal spirit, reveal a people uniquely attuned to the rhythms of the earth and the bonds of family and friendship. Hobbit society is built around the land, which serves as the foundation of their daily life. Farming and gardening are central to their existence, as they take great pride in cultivating the earth. Their fields are filled with crops like barley and potatoes, and their orchards produce apples and pears. Hobbits are also skilled gardeners, with vibrant flowers, herbs, and vegetable patches surrounding their homes. Their connection to the land is practical yet reverent, and they treat it with care, ensuring it continues to provide for their simple but satisfying needs. This agrarian lifestyle feeds into one of the most beloved aspects of Hobbit culture, their love for food. No meal is too small or insignificant for a Hobbit, and their day revolves around an elaborate schedule of eating. Breakfast, second breakfast, elevenses, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, and supper are all celebrated with enthusiasm. The dishes themselves are hearty and comforting, often made with ingredients grown or raised locally. Fresh bread, roasted meats, cheeses, and ales are staples of their diet. And their meals are not just a necessity, but a cherished ritual. Eating together strengthens their communal bonds, with food serving as a centerpiece for social interaction. In addition to their love for food, Hobbits enjoy simple pleasures that make life in the Shire deeply fulfilling. Smoking pipeweed, for example, is a widespread pastime, with the South Farthing's long bottom leaf being particularly renowned. Storytelling and songs are other favorite activities, often shared by the fire on long evenings. These practices, passed down through generations, preserve the oral history of the Hobbits and reinforce their identity as a people who value tradition and harmony over ambition. The Hobbits' customs are rooted in their love for family and their emphasis on community. Nowhere is this more evident than in their birthday celebrations. Unlike other cultures, where the individual receiving the gifts is the focus of the day, Hobbits have a unique tradition. The birthday Hobbit gives gifts to others. These gifts, often small and thoughtful, are tokens of gratitude and goodwill, symbolizing the importance of giving back to one's family and friends. The celebration itself is usually accompanied by a grand feast filled with laughter, music, and plenty of ale, making it a communal event rather than a personal one. Festivals also play a significant role in Hobbit society, marking important occasions like harvests and seasonal changes. These gatherings bring entire communities together in a spirit of joy and cooperation. Dancing, singing, and games are staples of such events, alongside tables laden with food and drink. The annual Harvest Festival, for instance, is a time of shared labor and celebration. where hobbits express their gratitude for the land's bounty and their fellowship with one another. Family structures are another cornerstone of Hobbit culture. The bonds of kinship are cherished, with extended families often living close to one another, if not in the same home. Prominent clans like the Tooks, Brandybucks, and Bagginses are well known throughout the Shire, and their influence extends to social and political life. Family gatherings, whether for feasts or festivals, reinforce these ties, creating a sense of belonging and continuity that sustains Hobbit society. The importance of hospitality further underscores their communal nature. Hobbits take pride in welcoming guests into their homes, offering food, drink, and a warm hearth. Though they are wary of strangers, once trust is established, their generosity knows no bounds. This spirit of hospitality reflects their deep-seated belief in the value of fellowship, which lies at the heart of their customs. The homes of hobbits are as much a part of their culture as their customs, embodying their love for comfort, simplicity, and harmony with nature. Hobbit holes, or smiles, are built into the hillsides of the Shire, blending seamlessly with the landscape. These homes are not ostentatious, but rather designed with practicality and coziness in mind. Circular doors and windows, wooden beams, and snug interiors make hobbit holes inviting and warm, reflecting the hobbit's emphasis on comfort and shelter. The quality of a hobbit hole often varies depending on the wealth of the family. Wealthier hobbits, like the Tooks of Tuckborough, may have larger, more elaborate homes with multiple rooms and decorative touches. The Hill in Hobbiton, where Bilbo and Frodo Baggins lived, was a fine example of such a home, with its spacious interior and well-stocked pantries. In contrast, poorer hobbits often lived in simpler burrows or houses above ground, though they were no less comfortable. Regardless of size or wealth, hobbit homes share a connection to the land. Their construction avoids disrupting the natural surroundings, with gardens and orchards seamlessly integrated into the landscape. This harmony with nature speaks to the hobbits' respect for their environment and their desire to live in a way that sustains both their needs and the beauty of their home. Perhaps the most defining trait of the hobbits is their aversion to adventure. Unlike the elves, dwarves, or men, who are often drawn to quests of great significance, hobbits prefer the safety and comfort of home. They are deeply suspicious of the unknown, believing that a quiet life among familiar surroundings is far preferable to the risks and hardships of the outside world. This sentiment is encapsulated in their proverb: "Adventures are nasty, disturbing, uncomfortable things. Make you late for dinner." This desire for stability does not mean hobbits are without courage, but their bravery is often rooted in their need to protect what they love. The rare hobbits who embrace adventure, such as the Tooks and later Bilbo and Frodo Baggins, are seen as exceptions rather than the norm. The Tooks, in particular, are known for their adventurous streak, which sets them apart from the more conservative hobbits of the Shire. Even so, these adventures always circle back to the importance of home, as hobbits who leave the Shire often find themselves longing for its peace and familiarity. This peaceful and vibrant culture made the Shire a sanctuary, a land untouched by the chaos of the wider world. In the next part, we will explore how this tranquil haven fit into the broader tapestry of Middle-earth, examining the Shire's role in a world often defined by turmoil and war. For much of Middle-earth's long and tumultuous history, the Shire stood as a realm apart, quietly removed from the great wars and struggles that shaped the fate of the world. It was not a place of kings or armies, nor a land of ancient power or vast riches. Instead, the Shire represented a refuge, a corner of peace where life continued undisturbed by the shadows spreading across Arda. Yet, despite its isolation, the Shire was far from insignificant. Its preservation and its people's unassuming courage would come to play a pivotal role in the ultimate defeat of Sauron, a victory for which the hobbits were uniquely suited. The Shire's peaceful isolation was both a product of its geography and the vigilance of unseen guardians. Nestled in the western lands of Eriador, far from the power centers of Middle-earth, it was naturally shielded from many of the larger conflicts that consumed the world. With the fall of Arnor, the northern kingdom of men, much of Eriador became sparsely populated, leaving the Shire and its surrounding lands to grow wild and untroubled. Unbeknownst to the hobbits, their peace was carefully preserved by the vigilance of the Dunedain Rangers. These descendants of the kings of Arnor, led in the later Third Age by Aragorn, patrolled the borders of the Shire and Eriador. Though diminished in number, the Dunedain remained steadfast in their duty to protect the free peoples of the North, even those who knew nothing of their existence. The Shire was of particular importance to the Rangers, not because of its strategic value, but because it embodied what they fought to preserve: a way of life untouched by the encroaching darkness. The Rangers fended off marauding orcs, kept watch against wights and other malevolent forces, and ensured that the Shire remained a sanctuary. This selfless protection went unnoticed by the hobbits, who rarely ventured beyond their own borders and had little understanding of the dangers lurking beyond. The relationship between the hobbits and the Dunedain was thus one of silent guardianship, where the former lived in blissful ignorance of the latter's sacrifices. Yet this dynamic was not without significance. The Shire's survival as a peaceful and untainted land would later prove critical in the fight against Sauron, serving as a reminder of what was at stake in the battle for Middle-earth. While the Dunedain provided physical protection, another figure played a more subtle but equally vital role in the Shire's history: Gandalf the Grey. The wizard, a Maya sent by the Valar to aid the peoples of Middle-earth, took a particular interest in hobbits, whom he regarded with both affection and curiosity. Gandalf saw in the hobbits a strength of character that was often overlooked by others. Their simplicity, humility, and resilience made them uniquely resistant to the temptations of power, qualities that would later prove indispensable in the struggle against Sauron. This keen observation led Gandalf to befriend and guide certain hobbits, most notably Bilbo Baggins. Though the hobbits of the Shire were largely unaware of the great forces at work in Middle-earth, their home became central to the fate of the world, through its connection to the One Ring. The unassuming nature of the Shire and its people made it an ideal hiding place for the ring after Bilbo brought it back from his adventure. For decades, it rested in Bag End, unknown to the world and even to Sauron, who had long since lost track of its location. This obscurity shielded the ring from discovery, buying Middle-earth precious time. Had the ring been found by Sauron or his agents during this period, the war would have been lost before it began. The Shire, with its remoteness and insignificance in the eyes of the enemy, became an unintentional but crucial part of the strategy to keep the ring out of Sauron's grasp. Despite their isolation, the hobbits' love for their home would later inspire the bravery needed to protect it. Frodo, Baggins, Samwise Gamgee, and their companions carried the peace of the Shire in their hearts throughout their perilous journey. The memory of its green fields and quiet hills gave them strength, reminding them of what they fought to preserve. For Aragorn, Gandalf, and the other leaders of the Free Peoples, the Shire stood as a symbol of what Middle-earth could be if freed from the shadow of Sauron. It was not a land of power or ambition, but of contentment and harmony, untouched by the corrupting forces of greed and domination. The Shire's survival became emblematic of the stakes in the War of the Ring, a vision of the peace that victory could bring. As the stage for the ring's hiding and the starting point for Frodo's journey, the Shire's place in the history of Middle-earth is undeniable. In the next part, we will turn our focus to the hobbits themselves, exploring how their unassuming courage shaped the War of the Ring and ultimately changed the course of history. The War of the Ring, with its vast armies, great captains, and ancient powers, was a conflict that seemed far removed from the quiet fields and hills of the Shire. Yet, it was for unassuming hobbits, Frodo Baggins, Samwise, Gamgee, Meriadoc, Brandybuck, and Peregrine Took, who carried the fate of Middle-earth on their shoulders. Against all odds, these small folk, known for their love of peace and simplicity, emerged as pivotal figures in the struggle against Sauron. Their courage, loyalty, and unexpected resilience not only shaped the outcome of the war, but also revealed the enduring strength of those often overlooked. At the heart of the War of the Ring was Frodo Baggins, the reluctant ring-bearer tasked with the monumental burden of destroying the One Ring. Entrusted with the ring by his uncle Bilbo, Frodo accepted his role not out of ambition or bravery, but from a sense of duty and a deep desire to protect the Shire. The task before him was daunting: to carry the ring into the heart of Sauron's dominion and cast it into the fires of Mount Doom, where it had been forged. Frodo's journey was one of immense physical and emotional strain. The ring, a creation of Sauron imbued with his malice and will to dominate, grew heavier with each step toward Mordor. Its corrupting influence preyed on Frodo's mind, eroding his spirit and weighing him down with despair. Yet Frodo pressed on, driven by an unyielding resolve to complete his task, even as the ring sought to consume him. By his side throughout this perilous journey was Samwise Gamgee, Frodo's loyal gardener and steadfast companion. Sam's unwavering loyalty to Frodo was a cornerstone of their success. Where Frodo faltered, Sam remained resolute, providing strength and encouragement in the darkest moments. His role was not merely one of support, but of quiet heroism. When Frodo was captured by orcs and imprisoned in the Tower of Cirith Ungol, it was Sam who braved the dangers of Mordor to rescue him. He even carried Frodo up the treacherous slopes of Mount Doom, bearing both his friend and the weight of their shared burden. Sam's simple, heartfelt wisdom and his ability to see hope where others saw only despair became a vital source of strength for Frodo. His vision of a better future, a world where the Shire remained untouched by the shadow of Sauron, sustained them both through the barren wastelands of Mordor. Together, Frodo and Sam embodied the quiet endurance of the Hobbits, their bond of friendship and loyalty proving stronger than the ring's dark power. While Frodo and Sam journeyed into the depths of Mordor, Merry and Pippin played crucial roles elsewhere in the war, demonstrating their growth from light-hearted troublemakers to courageous and capable individuals. Their paths diverged after the breaking of the Fellowship at Amon, but each found themselves thrust into events that would shape the fate of Middle-earth. Captured by orcs in the service of Saruman, Merry and Pippin were taken across the plains of Rohan toward Isengard. Their capture, though perilous, was not without purpose. Along the way, the two hobbits learned valuable information about Saruman's plans and the inner workings of the enemy. Their escape into Fangorn Forest marked a turning point not only for them, but for the war itself. In Fangorn, Merry and Pippin encountered Treebeard, the eldest of the ants, a shepherd of the forest, who had long watched the destruction wrought by Saruman's armies. Through their pleas and persuasion, the two hobbits convinced the ants to march against Isengard, unleashing their fury on Saruman's stronghold. The destruction of Isengard crippled Saruman's influence, allowing Rohan to rally its strength and shift the balance of the war. Merry and Pippin's individual contributions continued as the war progressed. Merry, ever loyal and determined, became a companion to King Theoden of Rohan, joining him on the march to Gondor. At the Battle of Pelennor Fields, Merry played a vital role in the defeat of the Witch King of Angmar, the leader of the Nazgul. Fighting alongside Éowyn, who struck the fatal blow, Merry's courage and quick thinking helped to eliminate one of Sauron's most fearsome servants. Pippin, meanwhile, entered the service of Denethor, steward of Gondor, after pledging his loyalty in repayment for Boromir's sacrifice. Though young and inexperienced, Pippin proved his worth during the siege of Minas Tirith. He saved the life of Faramir, Denethor's son, preventing the steward's despair from claiming another victim. Pippin's actions, though small in scale compared to the grand battles unfolding around him, were no less significant in the broader tapestry of the war. The Hobbits' role in the War of the Ring is a testament to their remarkable courage and resilience, qualities that belied their small stature and simple ways. Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin were not warriors, nor were they driven by glory or ambition. Instead, their bravery arose from love for their home, their friends, and the hope of a better future. This quiet, unassuming strength made them uniquely suited to their roles in the war. Their ability to inspire others was another key aspect of their contribution. Aragorn, Gandalf, and even the ants found renewed purpose through their interactions with the hobbits. The hobbits' determination reminded the free peoples of Middle-earth of the value of the small and the ordinary, of what was truly at stake in their struggle against Sauron. The hobbits' courage was also rooted in their bond with one another. Friendship and loyalty sustained them in the face of overwhelming odds, whether it was Frodo and Sam supporting each other through Mordor, or Merry and Pippin rallying the ants and standing alongside the warriors of Rohan and Gondor. The destruction of the One Ring marked the culmination of the Hobbits' extraordinary journey. Frodo and Sam, after enduring the grueling trek through Mordor, finally reached Mount Doom. Frodo, however, was unable to resist the ring's corrupting power in the final moment, claiming it as his own. It was only through the intervention of Gollum, who wrestled the ring from Frodo and fell into the fires of Mount Doom, that Sauron's power was ultimately destroyed. This climactic moment highlighted both the Hobbits' limitations and their triumphs. Frodo's failure to destroy the ring was not a mark of weakness, but rather a reflection of the immense power of the artifact and the toll it had taken on him. His success lay in carrying the ring as far as he did, an achievement few others could have managed. Sam's steadfast support was equally vital to their victory. Without Sam, Frodo would never have reached Mount Doom, let alone survived the journey. Their combined efforts, alongside Gollum's unwitting intervention, brought about the downfall of Sauron and the liberation of Middle-earth from the shadow of his dominion. The War of the Ring revealed the strength and resilience of the Hobbits, whose courage and determination defied all expectations. Frodo and Sam's journey into Mordor, Merry's bravery on the battlefield, and Pippin's resourcefulness in Gondor showcased the extraordinary potential of the ordinary. Through their actions, the Hobbits proved that even the smallest individuals could change the course of history. Yet their triumphs came at great cost, both to themselves and to their home. As the war ended and the Hobbits returned to the Shire, they would face new challenges in restoring the peace they had fought so hard to protect. When Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin finally returned to the Shire, their homecoming was not the joyful reunion they had imagined during their long and harrowing journey. Instead of the peaceful and idyllic land they had left behind, they found a Shire marred by corruption and cruelty. The once lush fields and quiet villages had been overrun by ruffians under the command of Saruman, whose petty vengeance had turned the Shire into a place of misery. Trees had been felled, factories had replaced mills, and the gentle hobbits had been reduced to fearful obedience under the oppressive rule of outsiders. Saruman, cast out from Isengard and diminished in power, had sought to extend his bitterness to the one place he knew Frodo and his companions held most dear. Under the guise of Sharky, he manipulated and controlled the Shire through his enforcers, sowing fear and division. This transformation of the Shire into an industrialized shadow of its former self represented the creeping loss of innocence that the Hobbits had fought so hard to protect. The four companions, however, were no longer the carefree individuals who had left the Shire months before. Their experiences during the War of the Ring had transformed them, endowing them with courage, leadership, and an unshakable resolve. Though they were outnumbered, they quickly rallied the Hobbits to rise against Saruman's enforcers, culminating in the Battle of Bywater, the final skirmish of the War of the Ring. Merry and Pippin, having fought alongside the great armies of Rohan and Gondor, now took charge as leaders. Merry's tactical mind and Pippin's boldness inspired their fellow hobbits to stand up against their oppressors. The battle itself was swift but decisive, with the hobbits successfully driving out the ruffians and reclaiming their home. Their victory was a testament to their newfound strength and unity, qualities forged during their time away from the Shire. Frodo, though less involved in the battle itself, played a crucial role as a moral leader. His journey as the ring-bearer had left him weary and scarred, but it had also granted him a profound sense of compassion and wisdom. With Saruman's influence ended, the hobbits turned their efforts toward healing the Shire. The scars left by the ruffians were deep, but the hobbits' resilience proved stronger. At the heart of this restoration was Samwise Gamgee, whose love for the land and deep connection to its beauty became a beacon of hope for his people. Using the gift given to him by Galadriel, soil from Lothlorien, and a single Malaran seed, Sam undertook the task of reviving the Shire's natural beauty. He carefully planted trees where once they had stood, bringing life back to the barren fields and scarred villages. The Malin tree, planted in the party field in Hobbiton, became a symbol of renewal, its golden leaves a reminder of the Shire's enduring spirit. Sam's work not only restored the Shire's physical landscape, but also its heart, allowing its people to reclaim their way of life. The scouring of the Shire was not only a physical battle, but a profound transformation for the hobbits, who had fought to save their home. Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin returned to the Shire as heroes, but their experiences had set them apart from their fellow hobbits in ways that could not be undone. They were no longer merely inhabitants of the Shire. They had become its protectors and guardians, standing as symbols of its resilience. Frodo, however, could not fully heal from the wounds he had suffered, both physical and spiritual. The burden of the ring and the scars of his journey left him unable to find peace, even in the restored Shire. His departure to the Undying Lands with Gandalf, Elrond and Galadriel was a bittersweet conclusion, representing both an end to his suffering and a farewell to the world he had saved. For Sam, Merry, and Pippin, life in the Shire continued, but with a deeper sense of purpose. Sam, now Mayor of Hobbiton, became a steward of the Shire's renewal, embodying its hope for the future. Merry and Pippin, who had gained wisdom and strength during their travels, became leaders in their own right, ensuring that the Shire would never again be vulnerable to outside threats. The legacy of the Hobbits extended far beyond the borders of the Shire. Their story of resilience, courage, and the power of ordinary people to effect extraordinary change became an enduring reminder of the values that had saved Middle-earth. The Shire, restored and thriving, stood as a testament to the triumph of hope over despair, a quiet but powerful symbol of what had been won in the War of the Ring. The scouring of the Shire and its subsequent restoration marked the final chapter in the Hobbits' remarkable journey. Though the Shire bore the scars of conflict, it emerged stronger, a reflection of the strength and resilience of its people. And so, my dear travelers, we come to the end of our journey through the story of the Hobbits, a tale of quiet resilience, steadfast courage, and the enduring power of simplicity. From their humble beginnings near the Anduin to their trials in the War of the Ring and the restoration of the Shire, the Hobbits remind us that even the smallest of folk can shape the greatest of fates. Their legacy lives on in the green fields and golden leaves of the Shire, a land they cherished and fought to protect. In their story, we find the strength to hold on to hope, even in the darkest of times, and to cherish the simple joys that bring light to our lives. Let these tales guide you to restful dreams, where the hills of the Shire are always green and the stars ever bright. Sleep well and good night.